Hi there and welcome to our latest episode in our Marketing Masterclass series. I'm Becca Peppiatt, Marketing Manager at Proctor and Stevenson, and today we're going to be sitting down with Vaq Hussain, Marketing Director at Actual Experience. Hi Vaq, well thank you so much for joining us today. We've been thrilled to have you on the series.
Hey Becca, nice to meet you too. It's good to be here.
So, for those people watching that may not be familiar with Actual Experience and what you guys get up to, can you please introduce your role and the company?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the marketing director, and we're a small team here in marketing Actual Experience, but we kind of cover the full range of growth marketing, product, as well as content as well. So a very varied role. I myself am I would describe myself as a generalist. So yeah, I like to get my fingers in all the different types of marketing. I've kind of been doing it for over 10 years now. And yeah, really enjoy it. Actual as a company, so we're a people analytics company. The pandemic has been a very good thing for us in the sense that everybody working from home has meant that our analytics become much more valuable. What we're able to do is quantify the kind of business impact that comes from people working from home and not being able to work properly. And that means we're able to report things like an unequal experience of people that are working from home, and we try to give back time that's lost through the digital world not working properly. So things that really matter to HR and people leaders within large global enterprises.
Okay, lovely. And for those people watching, they may not know, Proctor's has actually started working quite closely with Actual Experience recently, which we're very excited about. I liked what you said there about being a generalist, because that's probably how I would define my type of marketing as well. But what drew you to the marketing field originally?
If I'm perfectly frank with you, I was going to do law when I was choosing to go to university, and I didn't get enough UCAS points, to be perfectly honest. So then I had to very quickly think of something else, and marketing stuck out. At the same time, doing A-level law, I did realize actually this is just a bit too dull for me, and I don't think I could commit a career to being a lawyer. But marketing, it seemed to be, exciting at the time. When you're a bit younger, you kind of confuse marketing with advertising as well. But once I looked into it, it kind of, a lot of it resonated with me, especially around the strategic thinking and getting to know your audience and really knowing what makes someone tick, what drives a purchase decision. Those things really resonated with me, and I think that's kind of what I have kept close to me throughout my career.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think marketing is that mix of strategy and psychology and kind of business acumen all in one. So, I definitely see the appeal. So in this series, we've been super interested to find out more about how people like yourselves have led their business in terms of strategic response from the pandemic. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how you've kind of led Actual Experience's response over the last year and a half?
Yeah, so we've had to do a major pivot because before the pandemic, we were mainly working with the IT function within large organizations, and our analytics was primarily used in offices. So, working with organizations that had 5 or 6 offices globally to 100,000 home offices, we very quickly had to adapt how our analytics works and what the output is like, and it's opened up a brand new market for us, the HR function, the people leaders within larger enterprises. So we've had to rapidly learn a new market, understand new personas, new buying motivation, trying to figure out with the buying committee, the budgets, the budget holder, all those elements, as well as bringing on board some new salespeople, building the collateral for them, all at the same time, very rapidly, iterating all the collateral, all the material and the language and the value proposition. So it's literally it feels like every quarter we kind of tweak our positioning, which is a fantastic place to be in, but incredibly frustrating at the same time when you're trying to build one message, one brand.
Sure.
So yeah, it's fantastic, but very challenging at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you've touched on, you've mentioned a couple of things that you're working on there, but is there potentially one project in particular you could tell us a bit more about?
Earlier on this year, we worked closely with yourselves with launching a new website for us. So all that work that we did, all the kind of the work around messaging and positioning and value proposition, it came to a point where we really needed to update our website. And we were previously using HubSpot as our CMS. And as great as HubSpot is, from a website point of view, I found it quite restrictive. And working with you guys, you offered the solution of Webflow, and your colleague Dan, who he did a great job of convincing me it's worth the jump away from HubSpot and moving to Webflow. And since we've been very happy with the website, it's much more easier for us and quicker for us to make changes. Not just copy, but actual design changes as well. The university, the resource that Webflow offers is really useful as well. And Alice, our content manager, has found it really useful as well for someone who's come in not having used Webflow in the past and just picked it up really quickly. That was a really exciting project. Building websites can be daunting. We're in a fortunate position because we're quite early on in speaking to a HR market. We don't necessarily have to have the all bells and whistles. So we've gone for the real kind of skeleton of the website, and that now we're starting to build out that content. And I find the flexibility with the way it's been built has been fantastic for us.
Oh, that's lovely to hear you say that, because we really enjoyed working on that project with you guys. And I completely agree with Alice, what you were saying there about, it is such an easy content management system to work with. And I also was coming in quite fresh, hadn't worked with Webflow before, but worked very closely with Dan, who you mentioned there, who's our head of digital design, who's fantastic, and he's definitely pushed Webflow, not only for our website, but that's a solution that we now roll out for many clients, and we absolutely love it. The fact that you can work on these projects which are less resource heavy, you don't need to depend on developers, and from whoever's doing the content management, it does make streamlines the whole process. You can make design changes without necessarily having a digital design background. We've loved it. And for those of people watching that may want to hear a bit more about that, we've actually got a case study on our website about our work with Actual Experience. You can find out a little bit more about them and what we did there. And also we have a blog that went out recently. So yeah, please don't hesitate to get in touch to find out more with either of us, whether that's with Vaq or myself, if you want to hear a bit more about that. Moving on, let's talk a little bit more about your managerial approach on a more personal level. How do you keep your team motivated and keep morale high?
Probably the cliched answer of communication. Listen and communicate. Just make sure you always have an open channel with the people you work with. I guess I have no comparison here in terms of managerial styles. I'm not somebody who reads the books and stuff, but from the way I work, and I guess I've done this throughout my career. I work to make sure I speak with almost everybody in the organization, as many people as you can, and that information flow for me personally is important, because then you can flow that information down to your team. So they know exactly why decisions are being made if we as a team may not agree with them, but at the same time ensuring that people are able to make mistakes, and they're not afraid of owning up to those mistakes. I've worked in toxic environments in the past where people try and cover up those mistakes, and it just it gets worse. It makes people feel it's horrible. So yeah, I think it's just communication. It's make sure that people are confident enough to speak to you. You don't give a knee-jerk reaction. You think about what you say. You think about why what you could do to help improve help improve the individual, as well as work through a problem. So yeah. Okay,
excellent. I think you hit the nail on the head with what you said there about having the freedom to make mistakes, because that's when true creativity can form. If people aren't afraid to try different things and experiment, and without feeling that they could have horrible repercussions from management. I think as long as you have the support and the communication, that's a really lovely advice to pass on to others.
Yeah, completely. I mean, marketing has, as a buzzword, it's been data driven for a while, but I personally, I like to use the phrase data informed, because I think sometimes you could probably rely too much on data that you end up missing the nuances within. And that's something I try to instill with anybody and everyone I work with is, go and do the experiment, test the hypothesis, and let's talk about the result. Is this something that we can commit to longer term, or is it just something that, is a good idea but actually doesn't feel like it's got legs?
I like that, data informed. I'm going to steal that one. Okay, so in your opinion, what attributes do successful marketers have today?
I think it really depends on the type of marketer you're talking about. So from a generalist point of view, curiosity is the one attribute I think as a generalist you need to have. You need to have that open mind, that critical thinking, and that curious mind of just continuously asking the so what and the why. Why does this actually matter? Why are people doing this? Why are they behaving in this way? You said earlier on, it's that psychology element, really understanding the motivation behind someone's actions, because then that's when you know whether you can pin some budget behind it, that behavior, and go out to do the awareness, do the conversion and consideration phases.
Okay, let's loop back around to the effect of the pandemic on everyone's strategies. Do you think there's going to be a long-lasting impact on the way that businesses operate following the pandemic?
Yeah, I genuinely do believe so. I mean, we all, there's this whole thing about hybrid working now. I mean, I think that's clear that if an organization wants to remain competitive, definitely within recruitment, within talent acquisition, retention, you need to offer that flexible working approach. But I think there are bigger things as well, especially around experience and well-being, which is so important to individuals. I think it's a fantastic time to be an employee within a company now. If you're much more of a traditional or old-fashioned business, you're probably going to suffer very much, because your workforce will just abandon you if you don't look after them anymore. I think power, it's power to the people, to coin the cheeky phrase. It's very, very much is, the employee has the power now to decide where they work. Because I was listening to a webinar last week. Someone made a really phrased it really well, that work to some degree has become transactional. I'm working at Actual Experience today. I could start a new job tomorrow. My work surroundings will not change. Still a laptop in front of me, and I'm here in the study. So, the experience the organization offers me and the culture they give me digitally is going to be so much more important, and that includes all the support around well-being and my experience day to day.
Yeah, I completely agree what you said there about being transactional. I think there was an interesting shift when the pandemic first happened, where it was almost the other way, where a lot of businesses weren't surviving, people were getting furloughed, and people were very much desperate to remain in the workforce, whereas now it's all kind of rebalanced itself. And yeah, I agree. I think the employees probably hold slightly more power than they used to, and it has raised this point of well-being and benefits being, paramount, whereas they weren't necessarily having that spotlight before.
No, completely, and there's it's still early days, and I think, I don't think any organization knows what the recipe is at the moment. But we're fortunate, we're working with some real leading organizations, and it's impressive the commitment they have. One of our companies, one of our clients, they have an objective of trying to find 1 hour a week to just give back to their employees, for them to do whatever they want with that 1 hour, whether it's go for a run, do the dishes, whatever. And it's that that's genuine. I'm a bit of a skeptic when you hear about these organizations giving a week off to the entire organization, so they go back to the grind the week after. I feel that's just a sticking plaster, and we'll start to see the organizations that have really thought about it and really committed to creating this new way of working.
Yeah, and long-lasting changes as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about the changes to perhaps how you work at Actual Experience that you've rolled out over the last year and a half?
It hasn't changed too much for us, actually. We're a company of just under 100 people, so I think it's a good size to maintain the culture that existed whilst people were in the office. The sales and marketing team were generally quite hybrid anyway, and my previous role before Actual, I was fully remote. So for me, it was, the setup was there. It wasn't much of a change for me from going from 3-4 days in the office to 100% at home. Onboarding, I think, is probably the biggest challenge. The new employees you bring on board, how do you ensure that they feel part of the company, feel part of the culture of the organization? I think that goes back to the point we made earlier about communication. I try to encourage all people I work with to have open channels across everyone within the organization. We're relatively flat here as well, so speaking to the CEO isn't this big scary thing. The virtual door for him is always open on Slack. So it's I think it hasn't been too much of a big change or a challenge for us.
Okay, that's great. That's good to hear. And especially as you guys work in the digital landscape, I'm sure it was kind of natural that you would be ahead of that curve anyway.
You would hope so.
Yeah. Okay, well, I've got one last question for you. Do you have any advice for someone starting out in the marketing industry or other people on your level throughout the industry that are still kind of making their strategies as agile as possible in reaction to the pandemic?
My advice to anyone starting out in marketing is from my frame of reference is just remain curious, and especially earlier on in your early years of marketing, try not to specialize too much. Don't fall too quickly into a specialism until you've had the experience of all the little bits of marketing that you can, because once you start to specialize, it does become harder to jump into other areas, unless you work for an organization like a startup where you just muck in and get your hands dirty with everything. Just stay curious and don't specialize too much. And for organizations building their strategies, data informed. Use the data, follow the data, and see, use that to help aid your decision making, but at the same time, don't forget to ask your customers what they're actually doing. I think generally sometimes I found historically in my career I got lost in spreadsheets too much, when sometimes all you had to do was pick up the phone, speak to one of your best customers and just say, how's it going? Where do you think you're going and how can we help you get there?
Okay, great. Well, that's definitely advice that I'll personally take on board. Vaq, it's been so lovely to talk to you today. Thank you for joining us. If someone would like to contact you or find out more about Actual Experience, how can they do so?
Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn. I'll be under the Actual Experience page. You just search for Vaq Hussain. Happy to speak to anybody who's starting out in marketing. So yeah, more than happy to help. Lovely.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Vaq. I'll speak to you soon. If you'd like to find out more about our services here at Proctor & Stevenson, you can head to www.proctors.co.uk. We've also got a case study live on our website about our work with Actual Experience, as well as a blog that went live recently. Alternatively, you can find out more about our recent content on our social media channels, which you'll see on the next frame. Thanks for watching.